Hey, Dad.
What's up?
Nothing. What are you doing?
Just came in to take a piss.
Oh, come on. Too much info, man.
Alright, I came in to go to the bathroom.
Well, how's the water?
You want me to hang up now?
Oh, come on. That was a compliment, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not in the mood. My mouth is hurting. My back is hurting.
What's your mouth hurting from?
They pulled fucking teeth, asshole.
Why do you gotta call me names? I'm just asking. You gotta calm down. Take a deep breath.
Whatever.
Hey, I have a favor to ask.
Nope.
I haven't even asked yet.
I'm letting you know ahead of time.
Well, a monumental event is coming up, and I'd like you to be a part of it.
No.
I am, this Wednesday, I'm celebrating my 100th episode of my podcast, Iron on Wrestling, and I was hoping that if I stop by, perhaps...
No.
What? I didn't even ask you anything yet.
Well, you're not stopping by because you always come over unannounced. Like today is the first time you fucking asked. No, you're not coming over to do it. Do it at your house.
I come over unannounced because I'm like the weird neighbor in a sitcom. You know, I stop by, I'm a little zany, and I make you laugh a little bit. You know,
No, you don't. You get me pissed off.
Okay, well, maybe I'm the neighbor that stops by and I annoy you. But regardless, I was wondering if I could stop by and I would like you to be a part of my 100th episode.
No.
Come on, man. Like, I just maybe say some, like, kind words for the people that listen to the show and everything, you know?
No,
like, because why?
You know, have other people make stupid comments, and then you got that stupid picture on your phone.
Because it's on my phone with where I made you look morbidly obese and look like a woman, like that, no one else sees that.
Yeah, sure. Bullshit.
No one sees it but you and I, and it's just a joke amongst two friends, you know, father-son joke.
It's not a joke to me.
Well, I'm sorry, but look, like, you know, people I think would want to hear from the man that gave birth to me. You know, I'm the product of your semen.
I didn't give birth to you.
I mean, you helped create me.
Go to the cemetery and do your podcast there.
That's really morbid.
That's who gave birth to you.
What do you think? What do you think Mom will say from the grave?
You never know. She might reach up and grab your ass.
Oh boy, do you believe in ghosts? Spirits?
What do you want, Greg?
I'm asking. You're the one. I just wanted to ask you to be a part of my podcast, and you took it to a dark place where
I said no.
Yeah, you told me to go to see my dead mother at the cemetery and ask her to be a part of it, knowing.
You asked me, but you told me I'm the one that gave you birth. No, I didn't give you birth.
I said I'm the product of your semen.
You didn't say that.
I said it as you were talking over me.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Well, am I not the product? Am I not the product of your semen?
No, it was donated.
Oh, by who?
I have no idea. Sperm bank.
Well, that's weird because I look an awful lot like you.
No, you don't.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, you're right. I am more handsome and I've got a better chiseled jawline, and
you look like your mother.
That's not true. Mom looks like Uncle Greg, and even though we have the same name, I don't think I look like Uncle Greg. And if I did look like Uncle Greg, are you denying that Mom looks like Uncle Greg?
I have no fucking clue. I could care less about the Varneys.
I mean, they look so much alike that essentially, like, you were kind of attracted to Uncle Greg without a beard, basically, by being with Mom.
Okay, goodbye, Greg.
Don't hang up on me, Dad. Look, I love you. Jesus. Happy 100th episode.
Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. acquired your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease off your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. Why is it special? Well, because it's episode 100. That's right. We've gotten to 100. I feel weird. I really do. I mean, most things in my life I give up on fairly quickly. But for some reason, for 100 episodes, I continue to do this show. So you're probably thinking, what inspires you, Greg? You ask everybody every episode, what inspires you? I'll tell you what doesn't inspire me. Being fucking interrupted. This is very upbeat sounding, though. I will say that.
And for the 100th time, pardon the interruption.
What kind of music was that?
Well, I'm Aaron Bauer, first off.
Yeah.
I'd like a proper introduction.
Okay.
You never give me one.
Well, I'm
so
sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm Greg.
You don't give me a proper introduction. Why are you talking like Michael Holly?
You're too busy giving yourself one. Yes.
I'm starting the show.
Hello again, everyone. I'm your host, Gregory Iron, the host of the show. I'm such a host.
What should I call myself?
Super host.
What?
Give me back that shoe.
I don't know what's happening right now.
I'm glad to be here, and I think I lied when I said it was my 100th. Pardon the interruption.
Because it's true. You did miss like 1, 2, like 4 episodes.
Yeah. 2 of them we just didn't like, right? There was 2 weeks of COVID, maybe 3.
Yeah, and then, well, there was one where, I don't know, something with your kids.
Yeah, and we were not happy with the
It was
episode
not
at
good,
all.
yeah.
And then you re-recorded with some female.
Some female, Sarah Barker, okay?
Yeah.
A.K.A. my costume designer for every random, obscure Halloween costume that I do related to wrestling. Thank you very much. Don't insult her.
Man, she's so good at that stuff.
She really is.
How do you know her?
Through old wrestling was the first time that I met her.
Yeah.
And then we started communicating because she saw my Fit Legit training pics where I used to work out with Vincent Nothing. And she said, hey, is that the gym you go to? I'm trying to find a new gym. I would like to go there, do some strength and conditioning. And she started coming to the gym. And it was better for both of us. You know, like she just, I don't know, she's very dedicated to everything that she does. She creates incredible costumes, and she's very dedicated in the weight room as well.
And she enjoys your presence.
She does. We are good friends, me and Sarah.
Wow, that's, well...
What can I say?
It's astonishing.
Females tend to enjoy my presence. I mean, I can't help it.
Your presence?
Yeah.
Like when you give them a present, they unwrap it, and it's a picture of them and their grandpappy walking in heaven.
Not a thing.
With a fishing pole in one hand and TV guide in the other.
Nope, that's not.
That's what happened.
It's not how that happens, no.
Little barbecue chicken up there.
I don't. What?
What do you think they serve in heaven?
Probably whatever you want. I would like to think that heaven's a lot like The Good Place, which I don't think you've ever watched.
No, I don't.
You should watch The Good Place. It's
okay.
a good show. It's a good show to watch. It's a great show. It's about what happens in the afterlife, basically, with Ted Danson and
yeah, that guy, man. He's been around forever, right?
Kristen Bell.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Ryan.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Again.
Yes. Ryan Egan is in studio this month, one of our most dedicated Patreon subscribers.
Oh, hold on.
$69.
That's right.
Ryan, where did you come from? We didn't see you come in the door, and I know for a fact the door was locked.
I came in through the window.
Okay.
It was ajar.
What?
Wow.
You son of a bitch, you'll never wash clothes here again.
Yep. Well, my dad did not want to be part of the 100th episode. Before everyone got here, I recorded a call with him, so you'll have to go back and listen to that. He's just a cranky old man forever and ever. Doesn't matter how many episodes that we have, he will always be a crank.
Yeah.
But I can't believe we've made it this far, Aaron. It's pretty crazy.
We're still together, still growing strong.
Okay, didn't need you singing.
You're still the one I run to.
Little Shania Twain action here.
Yeah.
Podcast too.
You see, if my dad knew that you were singing Shania Twain, he might actually listen. He's a big fan.
I would sing Shania Twain to your dad.
My dad loves to listen to "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," and he will never.
Told me this.
Yeah, he will never admit that publicly.
You got to tell him so you can get me back in the good graces with him.
Yeah.
Tell him that I've been to see Shania Twain live in concert on more than one occasion.
I'll also tell him that you've figured out that his name is not Ralph.
Yeah, that might have been the beginning of the end.
Yeah, or that time you prank called him and said that you found my phone in the gym.
Hey, what episode is that?
I don't know. I got to go back and find it. But
I was trying to find it the other day. That shit was funny, yo.
Man, just I don't know. People have. Who would have thought that pranking my dad would be like the most popular thing on the show? Not even pranking. I'm just talking to him, and he just things escalate quite quickly.
Yeah, like most of the time, it doesn't start off as like, "Hey, I'm going to mess with my dad."
Yeah,
it's like literally just, "I'm going to call and have a conversation with my dad."
I could just say hello, and he'll be like, "What? No, I don't have any money. I didn't even say anything yet." Like, why do you have to be so negative? But we have a great episode today. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
I want to put over the fact that people love the prank call, which we didn't think about it originally.
Yeah.
But remember when we were at the tattoo shop a couple weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan hadn't gotten there yet, but we were the tattoo artist was putting over. He's a big fan of our podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, one of the best things is they prank call Greg's dad. And the dudes stopped what they were doing, and they turned and looked and went, "You guys do prank calls?"
Yeah, big fans of prank calls, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, they weren't wrestling fans. And they listened to the prank calls with my dad, and they enjoyed it.
Yep, that's what they wanted. Yeah. And you gave them what they want there. So.
But, over the past 100 episodes, we've catered to a variety of different things, too, that have become quite popular. The Hulk Hogan Lie of the Week was the first bit we were doing. And the show changed a lot once COVID hit because we had to start doing more segments because we had a lack of guests at first. Yeah. And so that's when we started doing the WW erotic fan fiction, which we haven't done.
Quick shout out to my wife, Angie. That is one of her favorite segments on the show.
Yeah. What's the bit that she likes most from erotic fan fiction?
The one where... Alex Riley's my boyfriend.
Yeah, Alex Riley is my boyfriend now. It just comes out of nowhere. John Cena
I think everybody's favorite.
Yeah, John Cena just randomly
It's either John. No, I think it was Dolph.
Was it Dolph Ziggler?
Yeah, because John Cena was trying to get with Dolph, and he's just like, Alex Riley's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then they were moaning so loud they could hear it throughout the arena.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think my favorite is still the first one because it was incest between Kane and Undertaker. Like, it was a hot way to start WW erotic fan fiction. But,
And somehow, let's segue this way.
Sure.
Somehow, you do stuff like that on this show. Mm-hmm. And you still found your Facebook official girlfriend.
Okay. Well, I don't...
Yeah, girlfriend. Ooh. Can she spend more than 2 hours with you at a time?
She has.
It's very rough for me.
Okay. Well, Nicole is a saint. She's a great lady. And
Saint Nick, huh?
No.
What?
Okay.
She's a saint.
Yeah, her name's Nicole.
Nick.
Okay, I see what you did there. But look, I want to point out that when I made it Facebook official, I tried to hide it from my timeline because
Why? Because you're embarrassed of it?
Yeah. I mean, that's not why. That's not saying that. I didn't want to make a big, huge deal about it. I want everyone to be like, congratulations, like we're married
like when
now.
you post your pictures of you getting a COVID shot? Look who got #1 today.
Well, like people want to know that, and I want people to know I'm vaccinated.
And by the way, get the vaccine.
Yeah, just get the
Don't
vaccine.
be an idiot.
Yeah.
Get the vaccine. Don't listen to
vaccine.
Don't listen to Ryback.
I can't get the vaccine.
Well, that's
until
different.
May 28th.
Ryback's telling everybody like, don't get the vaccine. Don't wear a mask. we'll all be okay.
injections.
Yeah, he sounds like a real Austin Aries.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes other injections. That's for sure. And I wonder why he's such a big guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want the in relationship thing to be like this congratulatory celebration. I just I thought it'd be a nice thing. I've never changed my status in a relationship, and I feel very confident in
give this one the rub.
Yeah. Like so, I said, you know what? This is the thing to do right now.
Did you talk to her first, or did you just make it official yourself?
I talked to her.
Yeah,
Good.
And she
said, "I want to go Facebook official."
Yeah, and she was okay with it. We met on Facebook dating, so I felt like it was only
really
right.
Facebook dating.
Facebook dating is a real cesspool.
I
tell you, bottom of the barrel.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's really bad. So to find such a beautiful and sweet and cool individual that also ironically loves wrestling, what are the odds of that?
How is she on her cardio?
Her cardio is great. She teaches Zumba. She's great.
Does she like you enough?
Okay, I like that better.
To get a tattoo for your show?
Better.
Probably not at this point. No, she's got great tattoos. Some of them are random, but cool.
Are any of them visible?
All...
You've showed me pictures of her, and I've not seen a tattoo.
Yeah, they're visible.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got one like right by her collarbone.
Well, I'm not looking there. That's your girlfriend. Oh,
Yeah,
hey, what kind of guy
don't you
think
know
I am?
the collarbone is the most erogenous zone on the body?
Okay. Well, anyways.
For some reason.
Yeah. So we're Facebook official,
Yeah.
and I enjoy your company. And
Good.
I look forward to
We're both happy for you.
learn more about her each day.
Speak for yourself,
What? Oh, what?
because I know where this ends.
Where does it end?
Been your friend a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
None of your relationships are still active, which means
I would hope not.
every one of
If
your
he- if he has-
relationships
if he has a new-
ended in what?
A breakup?
Yep. Oh,
They're Facebook official.
You're gonna fuck this up so bad.
How am I gonna mess? I'm not gonna mess this up.
Don't.
You know how you
I
messed
didn't-
up the
hey.
laundry today?
Okay, first of all, let me point out that I haven't messed up any relationship I've been in. My
It
long
was all their fault.
My long-term relationship, did I have some missteps along the way? Perhaps, but I think her cheating with Chilean cornbread man might have been the thing that ended that fucking relationship.
I believe that's a good point.
Yeah, but everybody always kind of thought something was going on with you and Hobo Joe.
That's not true at all.
So I think that she probably...
That's quite gross. The other girls, the last two girls were like, I was secretly the side guy, which I don't know how that happens twice in a row.
You got to be real dumb.
Okay, well, that's not very nice. Oh, so you want to talk about the laundry, though?
I would love to.
But I will go on record before we get to the laundry, which Greg did fuck up.
Jesus Christ.
Don't curse this.
Yeah,
This is a new thing.
Yeah.
It's a new beginning.
yeah.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and it's going great. We communicate well, and we really enjoy spending time together. I just met her friends this weekend for the first time, and her friends are awesome.
I mean, it's got to be hard too.
What do you
Dating someone who's blind.
Oh, okay. Wow, boy, this guy's got jokes. I'm going to refund you your $69 a month, you son of a bitch.
No, you're not.
Very unnecessary. But, I met her friends, which that's a thing that's never happened before. Like,
There
I've
you
never
go.
had a girl.
Well,
that's
because
like,
if you're the side guy, they don't want you to meet anyone in their life.
that's true. Like, I've never had a girlfriend be like, here's my friends, and I'm proud that you're dating me, which, I don't know. It shouldn't be weird, but it's weird, and it's
Yeah.
nice. So, yeah. But okay, so laundry. Go ahead, Aaron. Go on your tangent about this laundry.
I don't have a tangent.
Because I made a tiny mistake. Whoops, my bad. Go ahead.
Kind of a big
So,
mistake.
my son got drafted in baseball to the Dodgers.
L.A. Are you guys moving?
Yeah, I guess this is it. This is the
Wow.
last podcast.
Greg,
So-
can I be your new co-host?
We're getting ready for baseball today, and I was going to take him to his first practice. And Greg had come over, and I said, hey, number one, I have a chiropractor appointment. And number two, I have to take my kid to baseball practice. So I'm going to let you in my house. You can set up and everything. And I figured he had brought laundry, which he did.
Of course.
And so I left and took my kid to baseball practice and that. I was before I had done that, I looked at Greg had started his laundry, and he used fabric softener, liquid fabric softener, as laundry detergent.
The washing element.
Look, it looked like the same type of bottle in which you would put soap in.
So I came in and I noticed this, and the cycle was done, and I said, Greg, what soap did you use here? The one that you didn't replace the bottle cap back on? And he said, I was going to put that back on. I swear, I'm not that irresponsible. Let me just get these bubblegum wrappers out of.
Okay, that's
Never
not
mind.
true.
No, so so he used the wrong type of detergent, and
Not
I
even
explained.
not even detergent at
Right.
all, really.
Yeah. Fabric softener to make the shit smell good. So
So your clothes are going to smell excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be clean.
we Greg switches over his clothes, but not before we had to do them a second time. Because his clothes weren't clean. They just smelled nice. It wasn't soap.
Yeah.
So Greg goes, and I specifically named what the soap was so he could look at it and know the next time he did a load of clothes. And I also showed him how on some bottles it says fabric softener as opposed to laundry detergent.
Yep.
So Greg throws in his next load.
Ew.
I look over,
Okay.
and by the trash can sits a second bottle of fabric softener.
Why do you have two different bottles of fabric softener?
You know how one of my children's gets. That's why they call him Punch for a reason. So,
Well, what maybe the
there's a calming solution in one of the fabric softeners. So
Yeah.
when I do his clothes, I wash them and then put the fabric softener in for his clothes specifically. But you use that entire bottle then on your next load.
well, I'm going to be very calm. Well, actually, because it's on my blanket, so I mean, I'm going to be very.
That'll be
You
beneficial.
wash more blankets again?
Yeah, I gotta wash. You gotta wash blankets and sheets, man. Come on.
That'll be very nice, actually.
Yeah, you know, it's but it'll be nice and you know, maybe I should get some calming solution for my dad and sneak it into his laundry.
There you go.
What do you think?
I like that.
There you
idea.
go. Can you imagine?
Well,
I don't know your dad that well,
Yeah.
obviously. I only really know him from your calls on the podcast.
Sure.
But I could not imagine your dad calm.
Nor could I. But, you know, maybe this episode will calm people down today. Brian Pillman Jr. will be on the podcast today.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about his early years before professional wrestling. We're going to talk about some of his experiences in professional wrestling. We'll obviously talk about his dad. But also we're going to touch on the upcoming Dark Side of the Ring that debuts next Wednesday, 2 hours on his father, Brian Pillman. And we also touch on the Brian Pillman memorial shows, which for the first time ever will be released on DVD and digital download in their entirety, with the exception of 99. It'll be the most that they have recorded. 98, 99, 2000, and 2001. It's a Joe Dombrowski exclusive.
Wow.
And
Joe Dombrowski.
Joe Dombrowski has helped put this together with Les Thatcher.
He's a good
and
guy.
Brian Pillman Jr., of course, got a lot of the interviews that will be included in the bonus documentary that's featured in it. And that features the likes of Chris Jericho, Christian, Matt Hardy, and just so many others that were a part of those events. And, you know, I didn't really pay too much attention to the indie scene at that point. I was too young.
Yeah.
But, man, you go back and you look at some of the matches that happened on these Brian Pillman memorial shows.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy that they allowed WWF, WCW, and ECW guys to participate on the same show. I mean, that just tells you how beloved Brian Pillman was.
Absolutely.
And all those stars together made for a hell of a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at some of those, and those, like, some of them are like dream matches,
Oh, yeah.
and they actually happened, but unless you got the DVDs or somehow got a hold of it at the time, or now you can actually finally see it once this stuff gets released,
Yeah.
you didn't know that it happened.
Right. Like on the first show in 1998, which was in Norwood, Ohio, which again, with Brian being from Cincinnati, we could have all gone to these shows.
Yeah.
100%. You know, they were in driving distance. But like your main matches, Al Snow versus Chris Candido and Chris Benoit versus Chris Jericho. But what is not listed on that show, April 29th, 1998, there was an appearance by Stone Cold Steve Austin on that show. And so many other guys from multiple organizations showed up. But can you imagine? We're talking the height of the Austin era. He just won the WWF Championship for the first time at WrestleMania 14. And in Norwood, Ohio, at Norwood Middle School, the biggest star in professional wrestling showed up to basically honor his closest friend, Brian Pillman. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff. And then, of course, in 2001, Randy Orton versus Flash Flanagan is a match that happens on the show in 2001. Terry Taylor versus Bobby Eaton happens in this match.
I would like that.
Ricky Steamboat is the guest referee.
Oh.
What the fuck? That's a real thing. Here's a real thing, though, too. Steve Corino defends the NWA World Championship against Flair.
Against who?
Flair. David, of course. David Flair. He defends the NWA Championship.
Oh, my God.
Against David Flair. So I want to go back and watch that. Mark Henry versus Hugh Morris. Lita versus Victoria. Evan Courageous versus Chris Candido. Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko versus Raven and Just Incredible. And the main event of this show is the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian versus Diamond Dallas Page and Canyon. So it's WWF versus WCW. Pretty cool stuff, man. Like, I can't believe these are shows that actually happened.
Right.
And we never even bothered to try to see them live.
Like right on our doorstep, almost.
Yeah. And now you can go relive those things because in the coming weeks, this will be released on DVD and digital download from Joe Dombrowski. And thanks to Brian Pillman Jr. for helping facilitate this whole thing because they had to get rights from Brian's mom, I believe, to help make this happen and be released for the first time. So it's going to be something to watch. Now, when you think of Brian Pillman's father, Aaron, what comes to mind for you? First memories of Brian Pillman.
Oh, if I'm going to go first memories, it's watching World Championship Wrestling, NWA World Championship Wrestling on, I want to say it was a Saturday night. The television show probably came on around midnight.
Yeah.
I just get back from the roller skating rink, and Brian Pillman was on, and I remember Jim Ross right away talking about how he played for the Bengals. I thought, man, that's an Ohio team.
Yep.
Oh, this is pretty cool. This could be my guy here. But then they got real weird with him. And they started doing Baywatch Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In California Brian.
Yeah.
They had a couple different things, but Hollywood Blondes was the thing. You know, that was cool. I think I liked him as wild card Brian Pillman the best. He crushed
Wild
that.
card Brian Pillman? That was a thing?
Well, loose cannon.
Yeah.
Oh. Did they call him the wild card?
No, I think I did though.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like loose cannon.
Yeah, I feel like loose cannon's a little bit more catchier than wild card.
I don't know.
Seems
but
like a
I
guy that
didn't
would
like
do a shitty
ticking
card
time
gimmick.
bomb. Remember?
Yeah, we talked about that.
right?
Yeah, we talked about. I think that was on a bonus episode.
Yeah.
Tiki Tom Bob.
I like I love the Hollywood Blondes.
Hollywood Blondes were great.
Yeah.
I loved ECW. Pillman.
Them making fun of Flair for the old.
Oh yeah. What's funny looking back because they weren't that old at that point to be made fun of. I literally
like
Arn Anderson was
34.
like Arn Anderson was like 30-some years old at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't look it, but you know.
When has he ever looked young though?
Nah,
Even
never.
in the 80s, he looked like the grizzled vet.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I do love ECW Brian Pillman, and I think that was just the beginning of. Well, you know, I think the ECW Pillman really helped make the WWF version that much cooler. But I think the start of the Brian Pillman thing goes back to, I believe, Super Brawl 6, where Brian does the "I respect you, Booker Man" thing with Kevin Sullivan.
I think that was a Clash of the Champions.
No, you're thinking of when he did the thing with Bobby Heenan.
That was
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
this was on pay-per-view because then they had to impromptu because they didn't smarten anyone up. Arn Anderson had an impromptu go out there in street
salmon-colored
Yeah.
jean shorts.
Yep, and he had to have a match with Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just pretty creative and interesting stuff back then.
And honestly, he was a genius about that too.
He really was.
Because he got Eric Bischoff to give him an actual WCW release under the guise that he was trying to work everyone. And then signed with WWF.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about that. I mean, that's ridiculous. I did love his ECW stuff, especially his promos, though.
Well, the whole look was there.
Yeah.
The jeans, the vest, the cane topped it off. His hair, I mean, he just looked wild. And he would do stuff with his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it looked crazy. And then he was doing all that shit where he was wrestling a pencil.
I love that promo.
Yeah,
The giant pencil that he's wrestling.
There was one where he took a shit in somebody's salad that worked for WCW. He was like posing as a chef.
Yep.
Some weird thing where he was naked on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the actual in-ring stuff. Like the initial debut of Brian Pillman. The lights were off. And Joey Styles was like, "Who the hell are you?" And the lights come back on, and it was Pillman.
And he's like holding up the cane.
Yep.
And just,
Oh, man. That thing gives me chills.
Then he threatens to pull his penis out and piss in the ring. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's good
and
stuff.
then they were like blurring lines because they had Shane Douglas come out to hold him back, even though Shane was a heel.
Yeah.
But they were also saying, everybody knows that Shane's in upper management here.
Yeah. Wasn't that that event was, what, Big Ass Extreme Bash?
I thought it was Cyber Slam.
Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. Well,
Maybe I am.
I mean, he showed up a couple times though.
Yeah.
So
There was a time where him and Van Dam were together.
I don't
Do you remember
that.
that?
No, I don't remember. that.
Yeah. Van Dam pushed Pillman to the ring in a chair, and I think Van Dam may have wrestled Axel Rotten or something.
Okay.
But yeah, he was the one that pushed Pillman out to the ring, and then I think there was some incident afterwards, but we can talk about that another time.
What? Wait, what?
Why would there be a better time than now?
Do you have a favorite Brian Pillman match?
Okay. I think this is pretty across the board, but Pillman and Juice and Thunder Liger.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the first one that
Super
popped
Brawl.
in. Yeah, that's the
Yep.
first one that
Super
popped
Brawl
in my
2,
mind.
was it maybe?
Something
I
like
believe
that.
so, yep.
Yeah.
For the
I
first
remember.
ever cruiserweight champion or light heavyweight at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my grandpa's birthday, and we were at
Chuck E. Cheese.
lunch.
Oh.
Whatever, and I just kept I wolfed on my food as quickly as possible. I was like, okay, ready to go, because I wanted to get back to see this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And they were just taking their sweet ass time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we got to my house, and then I rode my bike to my friend's house who had ordered the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I got in just in time to see Pillman and Liger, and my night was made. That could have been the only match I saw,
Right.
and I would have been like, yeah, this was worth whatever I chipped in for the pay-per-view.
Yeah. And a bike ride.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that match, and of course, they wrestled a few times. I think a lot of people from my generation remember them on the first Nitro in 1995.
Yeah.
Which is why I loved. I was all in on watching that Nitro because I thought, they're going back to what I perceived as one of the greatest matches.
Yeah, they announced that in advance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was smart on WCW's part. Trying to think, I wish he would have had more matches in the WWF, and this isn't like a singles match or anything, but I don't know if Brian had a bigger match than at the Canadian Stampede.
Yeah.
Oh.
Heart Foundation versus
Yeah.
Austin and LOD and Goldust and
Yep.
Shamrock. That match is crazy, dude.
It is.
Just for a 10-man tag, that might be the best 10-man tag to ever happen.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I can't think of a better one.
Yeah, and just the crowd makes it.
The atmosphere.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll publicly say it. Ricky Shane Page has forever buried Austin versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13 because he says if you take away the crowd, now this is pre-pandemic that he said this, if you take away the crowd, What do you have? The match is nothing. And like the crowd helps make the match. Now I don't agree that you don't have anything. He says
Right.
it's just a hardcore match. Like no, but I think we realize now more than we did pre-pandemic. I mean, we should have already realized it, but like crowd is an essential part in making matches memorable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crowd and honestly commentary.
Right.
When you had Jim Ross on the commentary for WrestleMania 13, was it Jim Ross or was it Vince?
He was. It was a 3-man booth at WrestleMania 13.
But it's just like, you have like, Jim Ross at the end being like, he didn't tap out. He passed out.
Yep.
That helped make that match too.
Yeah. Brian, if he was alive, even though he had that gruff voice from all those vocal cord surgeries,
Yeah.
I think he could have had a decent career in commentary. I used to like his stuff on Shotgun Saturday Night. I thought he would always say controversial stuff, and just for the time period, man, like I enjoyed Brian on commentary. What did you think, Aaron?
He's good on commentary, but he was one of those dudes that could like reinvent himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of just that white meat babyface, Brian Pillman, when he first started in WCW, smiling and shit, clapping everybody's hands.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it looked like that fit him perfectly.
Yeah.
And then when he turned heel and joined the Horsemen and was psychotic and putting the 4 fingers in people's faces all the time, and then Arn had to slap him across the face. to hold him down.
Yeah.
How good was that?
Yeah.
So, like, he ran the gamut. He went from the... What do you want to say? The goodest of the good guys?
Yeah.
To the worst of the bad guys. Like,
Yeah.
he was so rotten. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was also really cool, one of the things that really stood out to me was when he got suspended, I think, by WCW, he showed up at Nitro and he had a sign and it said, for the latest scoops, call 1-900-Pillman.
Yeah. He had his own 900
Yeah,
number.
yeah. It was perfect. He was playing everything absolutely to the T.
Yeah.
It was good stuff. Now, I don't really remember finding out. I didn't watch the pay-per-view, so I must have found out the next night on Raw. But do you guys remember watching Bad Blood and finding out that Brian Pillman had passed away? Did you guys watch it live?
I didn't watch it, but at the time, it was like the cable system thing where even if you didn't buy the pay-per-view, you could still listen to it. The picture was just scrambled.
Right.
And I remember because I was, a big Shawn Michaels fan, and all the hype surrounding the Hell in a Cell, I was like, well, I got to check this out.
Right.
So I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't watching per se, but I could still hear everything that was going on. And when they like announced it, I was just like, is this a storyline?
Right.
Is this something that they're going to say happened, and then like 2 months from now, like Pillman's going to come out and attack Goldust again?
Right.
And then like the next night on Raw, that's when it really kind of like sank in, and you're like, oh, this was real life.
Yep. So that was like the first time that they did the thing where they brought everyone out on the stage and they put the picture up on the Titantron and they told the bell 10 times, and that would sort of become, I don't want to say tradition. It just seems like a weird thing to say for it, but like it's become the norm when someone passes away. That's how they pay respect for someone, and it started with Brian Pillman in the WWF. So, but I think Brian Pillman Jr. is helping the name of his dad live on strongly and proudly. I had the privilege to work with Brian in one of his first matches, and we talk about that for a little bit in this interview. And Aaron, you actually did commentary on that match. What are your thoughts on Brian Pillman Jr.?
Oh, man, I like him. I liked him when I met him that day. And then you guys had gone over a couple things. And so I always like someone telling me what they want me to put over on them.
And he did that, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For him to be just a young dude. And you said that was one of his first matches, right?
It was like in his first 30, I believe.
Yeah. So
it was his first time as a heel against me.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, though, because wasn't there a segment beforehand?
Yeah, like the month before we had done a segment where he was on commentary for my match, and he was on crutches at the time, and he ended up attacking me with his crutch or something, and basically setting the tone with, if my father was alive, he would hate someone like you, and I mean, it was perfect. And, it was originally meant to be a longer feud, but because Brian was about to go to MLW soon, Joe was like, we got to get this one match in before Brian's gone. And that's what happened. We at least got that one match in. I wish it could have gone a little further and deeper, because while our characters were very different in the sense that, like, he's sort of this new version of a loose cannon, sort of sadistic, and I'm this, like, baby-faced dude with a disability, we both have similar upbringings. Mm-hmm. We both were in very volatile home situations, and we do talk about that in this interview today. And I think we could have really, really gone deep with just the characters and everything in that storyline, and who knows where we could have taken it. I think we were going to tag up at some point, or maybe we did tag up. I don't remember.
I think you guys were supposed to tag up.
But it didn't happen, right?
Right.
Yeah. But we at least got that match in, and I really cherished that match. And actually, we didn't talk about it in the interview. We go back and watch that match. Brian actually wears his dad's Hollywood blonde tights in that match. And he told me beforehand, he goes, oh, check out the trunks I'm going to wear. And I was like, oh, those look just like Hollywood blonde, like the original ones. He's like, it is. A guy contacted me, and he goes, hey, I have your dad's trunks. Do you want them? And I said, sure. And I'm just like, so fucking weird. So I'm going to post it on social media. I think I got somewhere on my phone. I never posted it on social media because it's like a little too much light is in the photo, but we took a picture together with like both of our butts facing towards the camera, and I'm wearing my gear and he's wearing his Hollywood Blondes gear, and I sent it to Stone Cold. And I'm like, hey, I'm working Brian. You know what I mean? So it's weird, man. Life is very strange. Very strange stuff. But this interview is going to be fun. And I guess if you guys have nothing further to add, I guess we can go to some commercials. When we come back, we can talk to Brian.
Are we going to commercials with Jesse SBS, and that's no BS?
Yes, we're going to do that, yeah.
Because
like
that's
Jesse.
no BS.
Yeah.
It's Jesse.
Why are you doing the commercial before the commercial?
Oh, sorry.
I mean, it seems unnecessary.
I'm Greg. Only me can do commercial.
I already have something pre-recorded that we would go to, so I don't know why you need to.
Wait, can I do a commercial?
Why do you need to do a commercial?
Why don't you do the one with
our buddy Juan?
Yeah. He's our good buddy.
Juan of the Dead?
Okay, yeah. No, that's not his name. It's Juan Ortiz.
Juan of the Ortiz.
Okay. V is a very prominent middle name.
Before we go, Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
How your balls looking these days?
They look all right.
Like, when you say all right, like, what's the...
Are you saying, like, they're all right?
No.
Or they're all right?
What's the hair situation look like, huh? Come on.
Normal?
Oh, you
What's
have hair
normal?
down there.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's well, I hate to tell you, but over 80% of mates actually prefer a finely groomed man.
Mm. Well, luckily, I only have one, and she doesn't mind.
Oh, I don't know that that's true.
I've heard different stories, man.
Greg,
Wait, you talk to my wife about my balls?
Yeah, well, listen.
We got to know some things. I mean, if you're going to be on a show, you got to have a clean ball sack.
She may or may not have DM'd me. And she said, Greg, I got to ask you something. Is it normal for my husband to have such a hairy sack? And I said, Angie, I can't believe, like, this is a thing. Is this a real situation? She said, if there was a song to describe my husband's ball sack, it would be Welcome to the Jungle. And I said, that's not good. That's not a good situation. She said, Greg, what can I do? I said, Angie, I'll tell you. I said, when's Ryan's birthday? And she said, I don't know. Do you think I pay attention to anything in his life? And I said, well, listen.
I always tell her December 5th.
The next holiday or special engagement that comes around, or maybe just for no reason, perhaps maybe you should look into the lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped. Have you heard of this before, Ryan?
Vroom, 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 Ryan.
It sounds like the engine of a car for some reason.
It does. That's weird.
Not sure why.
It sounds like a hot rod over there.
Because the lawnmower...
But I feel like the lawnmower would give me a hot rod.
You ain't kidding, Ryan. Because the lawnmower 3.0 is Manscaped's incredibly patented, redesigned electric trimmer that the engineering team spent 18 months perfecting.
Wow.
And
18?
18 months.
18 months.
And it's the greatest ball hair trimmer ever. It's a third-generation trimmer that features a cutting-edge ceramic blade. It reduces grooming accidents, so you don't got to worry about cutting it all up down there.
Okay.
No blood, no juicing in this situation, okay?
No.
We don't want Angie dealing with that.
Red do not make green there.
No, we don't like that. It's got the advanced skin-safe technology that helps with that, of course, Manscaped pioneered. And guess what? How much time do you think it would take you to trim all of that hair down there, Ryan?
I don't know.
Well, in your case, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of hair, as Angie said. So, I mean, if it took you up to 90 minutes, it would be okay because guess what? The battery lasts for 90 minutes.
I feel like it would be a fraction of that, but okay.
Do you have electricity at your home?
I do.
Well, for some reason, lights go out. You don't pay that electric bill. It's got a nice little LED light
What
on
are you
it,
calling us,
too.
bums?
I'm not calling you a bum. I'm just saying, things can happen. I don't know.
I'm laid off. I'm currently unemployed, so...
Oh, boy, I didn't even think about that. We went down a dark path here.
That's all right.
So maybe if you can scrounge some cash together, though, you could invest
Sell
in
my
this
blood.
lawnmower. Yeah. Plasma cell's really good these days. They also use the 7,000 RPM motor with the quiet stroke technology.
Wow.
On this lawnmower 3.0.
That might be more than my car.
Well, guess what? If you order now, they will send you, along with the lawnmower 3.0, they're going to send you the ball deodorant and the ball toner.
Ooh. Because
you put deodorant on your armpits, I'm assuming, right?
Always.
Why wouldn't you put deodorant on the place that is right between your freaking, it's right by your butthole?
It is.
Your butthole doesn't smell that great. Not that I know from experience.
I was gonna say, are you telling me something
I'm
here?
just saying here, man. Like, maybe you should look into lawnmower 3.0 and look, I'm going to do you and Angie a service.
Okay.
If you go to manscaped.com,
yes,
and you use the promo code PARDON, PARDON, it's going to save you 20%.
Wow.
And shipping, it's on Manscaped. It's free.
Wow.
What do you think?
I think that I'm going to look into investing in this.
Well, you should, because your balls will thank you.
It's probably more solid than investing in Bitcoin at this point.
True. You can't do your dong wrong. Manscaped.com, promo code PARDON, save 20%, get free shipping, and they'll know that Aaron and Greg sent you. But without further ado, we're going to go to the interview with Brian Pillman Jr. right after some more words from our sponsors. If you're in the pro wrestling or entertainment industry, you probably realize how important it is to have merchandise. Not only does it help you when it comes to bringing in additional revenue for yourself, but the look and feel of merch is a representation of the brand you're building. So you definitely don't want it to suck. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, where can I find a reliable and reputable artist that'll make me a solid t-shirt or pin design that'll make me look and feel like a superstar? Well, I've got the answer for you. Of the Dead Designs. Of the Dead Designs is a one-man merch company ran by artist Juan Ortiz. Now his name may not be familiar to you, but his artwork should be, because you've likely seen his designs on TV and Hot Topic, and he's created some of the highest-selling shirt designs in pro wrestling tees history. Of the Dead Designs has created artwork for the biggest names in WWE, AEW, ROH, Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and beyond. I'm talking guys like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, CM Punk, The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Road Warrior, Animal, The Lucha Brothers, Jungle Boy, even yours truly. Now you're probably saying, whoa, I'm not in the league of The Young Bucks or Hulk Hogan, brother. There's no way I can afford artwork from Of the Dead Designs. Well, I'm here to tell you you're wrong, because Of the Dead Designs is affordable. Juan isn't just looking to create art for the superstars of today. He wants to make it for the superstars of tomorrow as well. And look, Of the Dead Designs doesn't just do artwork for wrestlers. He'll create merch for your band, your podcast, your dance troupe, your kids' pee-wee football team, your daughter's school bake sale.
Heck, got a girl that you're afraid to talk to, but you stalk on Instagram and like all of her photos at around 2 or 3 a.m. and you've been hoping that you get the hint like, hey, I really like you, but she has yet to slide in your DMs, and now you think, well, I got to take it to the next level, so you get Of the Dead Designs to use a photo of her ex-boyfriend as a reference to create artwork, but you replace the ex's face with your face and then present this custom artwork to the chick with hopes that she'll kiss you directly on the lips. Of the Dead Designs will do that for you. With over 14 years of experience and a portfolio of clients that speaks for itself, Of the Dead Designs will make your artwork at a reasonable price. And hey, if you mention this ad, you'll save $10 on your first design. Of the Dead Designs still has spots open for 2020, so you gotta act fast. If you're interested in a design, contact Of the Dead Designs right now on Instagram at ofthedead209, on Facebook at facebook.com/ofthedeaddesigns, or at his website, ofthedead.weebly.com. Of the Dead Designs, bringing artwork to life. We will return to the Iron on Wrestling podcast in just a moment, but I wanted to take a couple minutes of this time to let you guys know that if you didn't realize it already, Iron on Wrestling is a DIY project. That's right. I'm recording all of this myself. I'm editing it in-house all by myself. I'm coming up with the segments and the content, and I'm making sure that each and every Wednesday, by investing countless hours of my personal time, you guys have a new, unique, and entertaining episode blasting into your ear holes. So I hope you don't mind that for a few minutes each episode, you have to deal with a little bit of advertising. Because, quite frankly, I gotta pay those bills somehow. But you know, I don't just pick anyone to be an advertiser on the podcast. When I choose an advertiser for the show, I want to make sure that it's someone that can bring you, the listener, value. I often talk about Of the Dead Designs and my good buddy Juan Ortiz, who can create you a unique logo or t-shirt design for your personal brand. But once that t-shirt design is made, who's going to print it for you? Well, that's where Jesse Massey and SBS Printing comes in. Jesse is a good friend of mine, and much like me in this podcast, he's DIY. For over 10 years, Jesse has been printing t-shirts and hoodies in the comfort of his own home, and he's been the official t-shirt printer for guys like myself, Atticus Cogar, Eddie Only, Ricky Shane Page, basically all the 440 guys. My favorite thing about Jesse Massey is the quick turnaround time. When I go to Jesse and I need a shirt design printed right away, I know that he'll have it ready for me within 3 to 5 days, sometimes even quicker. And on top of that, he's affordable. Jesse and SBS can print one color shirt designs for as low as $5. $5. Where are you going to find another deal like that? Now you're probably thinking at a price like that, there's no way these could be quality, long-lasting prints. Wrong! They're super high quality and they're going to last you a lifetime. Jesse and SBS can print you t-shirts, zip-up hoodies, sweaters, and so much more. I encourage you to hit up Jesse right now. Shoot him an email at antisepticmaxrock@gmail.com. That's ANTISEPTIC maxrock@gmail.com. With Jesse Massey and SBS, you're going to get the best. That's no BS. Before we go to the interview with Brian Pillman Jr., we need your help. Eddie Only is missing. Where is Eddie Only? It's a very important question, and we need to get to the bottom of it. You can help us find Eddie Only. Do you have any tips? Have you spotted Eddie Only somewhere? Do you have any idea of his whereabouts? If so, you can call us and give us information, and we'll play it on this show at 440-296-9242. Anything will help us. We just want Eddie to come home safe. Before we play some of the most recent tips, I want to remind you that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/irononwrestling, where you can get bonus episodes, extended episodes. The regular episodes drop early. Plus, you can get involved in a Zoom chat that we have once a month. You can get packages in the mail from us. You can select bonus podcasts that we'll talk about. That includes wrestling, non-wrestling related. We'll watch matches. You can get involved in the podcast in certain tiers and talk directly with Aaron and I. Heck, you can even come into the studio and talk with us directly. It's quite the experience. You can get involved. Patreon.com/irononwrestling. Oh, and by the way, everybody that signs up at the $3 or up level, we'll follow you back on social media. That means you can DM us directly. And trust me, ask some of the people over on Patreon. We interact with them all the time. They become closer than most of my actual family. So it's worth your time, believe me. And without further ado, here are the latest tips from the Eddie Only Hotline. Eddie, we love you, pal. Wherever you are, we want you to come home safe.
Muhammad Hakim, Safed Kurdistan, Texas, USA.
Where do you see my dick? Where do you see my dick? Oh! Where do you see my dick? Where do you see my
Yeah, that dude was totally at my house. At least for a couple days. I mean, he is so freaking hot. I just couldn't let him leave. But I didn't know y'all were looking for him, so I don't know where he is now. He was at my house for a couple days, though. We didn't sleep much, so he's probably sleeping somewhere. Okay, love you, bye.
Yeah, RSP. I heard that Eddie Only, he was trying out for some porn because he needed some extra money because Danny Demento wasn't paying him enough money. So I'll tell you right now, he ain't got the biggest wiener like Ron Jeremy, but boy, he can fucking sure go at it in a porn movie. So I tell you right now, Eddie Only could be the biggest porn star this side of the nut house. I'll let you know that, RSP, baby. So I'll see you later. Eddie Only, you'll see him later, sooner than later.
One last thing before we go to the interview with Brian. I promise you we'll talk to him in a second and you'll enjoy it. Just want to talk a little bit more about the Brian Pillman Memorial DVD/digital download that's coming out. Very monumental. These are historic shows that are going to be available for the first time ever in their entirety. And you're going to see so many stars highlighted on these Pillman shows, including on Pillman 98, a special appearance by Steve Austin, Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit, Al Snow, Chris Candido, Sonny. Pillman 99 features Rey Mysterio Jr. and Conan versus Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit with Woman. You'll get highlights of Mick Foley versus D'Lo Brown, Al Snow versus Road Dogg, Terry Taylor versus Tom Pritchard. Pillman 2000 features probably the most famous match from that card, Steven Regal versus Chris Benoit for the WWF Intercontinental title, Eddie Guerrero and D'Lo Brown versus Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, Justin Credible versus Raven for the ECW title, Shane Douglas calls out DDP, Vampiro versus Bill DeMott, Billy Kidman's there, Disco Inferno, Ron and Don Harris, Tim Horner, Jamie Noble, Shark Boy, and then of course on Pillman 2001, the main event is Matt and Jeff Hardy versus Edge and Christian versus DDP and Chris Kanyon. I mean, these shows are something to see, plus there's a ton of extras. I super encourage you to go to ProWrestlingLibrary.com and check out this DVD. This is going to be something that you need to have. You can also check out joe-dombrowski.com. This should be on sale right now, and it'll be available this Monday. So check it out, and here's some extra audio from Joe Dombrowski hyping up the Brian Pillman Memorial shows.
The events that broke all the rules and shattered promotional boundaries are finally available. the entire wrestling industry stood together to honor one incomparable man who changed the game forever. And for the very first time, you can own the surviving footage of all 4 Brian Pillman Memorial events in one historic set. Check out the event that started it all, as all 3 top promotions and more are represented in Pillman 98. Watch how the sequel topped the original, as the concept returned in Pillman 99. See the event expand into an all-day spectacle of festivities in Pillman 2000. And experience the grand finale, as Pillman 2001 proved to be the biggest happening of them all. Plus, Pillman show promoter Les Thatcher reunites with Brian Pillman Jr. after 20 years to discuss the impact of the Brian Pillman Memorial events. And we go inside the locker room with new, original, never-before-seen interviews as the stars remember Brian Pillman and his memorial shows. Also includes other rarely seen video, audio, auction highlights, and more. See over 100 stars across 4 discs and 14 hours of footage. The Brian Pillman Memorial Show Anthology, available now on DVD and digital.
My guest today is a guy that grew up around the business, and he's been making a name for himself over the last 4 or 5 years now on his own, paving his own path despite being a second-generation superstar. Longtime friend of mine, and I'm glad we get to have this conversation today. Brian Pillman Jr., thank you for joining me, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Greg.
I'm excited to talk about a bunch of stuff with you today, but first and foremost, kind of want to start out hot and see what your take was, because I'm positive you've seen it, and I know you're a big gamer. Did you watch Mortal Kombat that just came out?
Yeah, so the cool story about that is Miro, formerly known as Rusev, got a hold of Warner Brothers and got a early viewing for all the AEW talent. We got to go over to AMC on Wednesday, the morning before TV, and like a lot of people went. It was really cool, you know, the Bucks and Cutler and Miro and everybody was there, me and Danny and Brian Cage, and we all just kind of sat together and just in the theater, and we're all nerds and stuff too. So it was just really cool to see a film that really paid respect to its audience. You know what I mean? They weren't trying to, you know, reinvent the wheel. You know, they reintroduced the characters and everything, but they also did it in a way that they knew that we knew who they were. Like they knew that, you know, we knew the references and the lines, and they even, you know, they had some cheeky like lines from the games, like, you know, Kano wins and shit like that, or fatality and stuff. And you know, there's a few moments where it's like, oh, that's so corny. But then at the end of the day, it's like it got that reaction out of you, and it had that nostalgia to it. So, and like there's just the quality of the fight scenes and the special effects were so like high level and stuff. Like, you know, people say what they want about the acting, but I thought the cast was very true to the like Asian origins of Mortal Kombat and of the roster, you know what I mean? So like they tried to stay true to the actors and stuff and where those characters were from and that. So no, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was probably it's definitely the best Mortal Kombat movie of all time. But as a gamer and growing up and also playing the game, hell, I was playing it earlier today. Like I was one of my favorite movies of all time. Really, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, you know, video game movies sometimes can be hit or miss. I really enjoyed the fatalities in the movie, and I really loved Kano. I think he was the star of the film. Just his character was great. But, you know, when you think about classic video game movies, is there one that you lean towards? Because I have a fondness of the Mario Brothers movie, even though it doesn't relate to the game at all. Is there a particular video game movie that you enjoy?
Not at the top of my head, I'm trying to think, but no, I really did enjoy the old, like that's the thing too. Like I love the old Mortal Kombat movies too. Like I grew up watching those.
Yeah.
So to see from the very first, time it's Scorpion and it like pierces through his hand and it's like the CGI is terrible and it's like, but like as a kid, I just loved that movie because it was so visceral and it was so like, you know what I mean? It's almost, they almost have like this horror movie gore to them, you know what I mean? Like that, like, and it was just funny seeing like the original Mortal Kombat I really liked. And then the second one was kind of whatever.
Yeah, Annihilation was a little rough. I mean, I remember as a kid being real disappointed because I was pumped for it.
But then they redeemed themselves with the new one,
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to think like, what are some other good video game movies? I mean, obviously like, the Batman movies had some really good games that were involved,
Oh yeah.
I grew up watching Spider-Man, the Spider-Man games that went with the movies. Like some of the games that were inspired by the movies. Like I remember Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation was like amazing.
Oh yeah.
It was really
Classic.
good. And like
Yep.
the swinging was like state of the art, like on PS2 and shit. And like, that was a game that kind of came from the movie, which came from a comedy, right? So it kind of all goes into that. But no, I mean, like, yeah, like, I think like you said, like specifically video game movies, like I think Mortal Kombat and Warner Brothers kind of have that unique like relationship where, like they're able to put the celebrities in to the games, like, what's his name? Terminator and RoboCop and Jason Voorhees and all these guys. So it's like, if they're so well received in the games, then like what's stopping them from showing up in the Mortal Kombat movie? You know what I mean? So it's like I think they signed for like 4 sequels.
Yeah, it's
so then
pretty
like
crazy.
you could see, I could see just Jason showing up like in the middle of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that'd be nuts, dude, man.
Because it's it's all owned by Warner Brothers now, so it's like under the same roof of entertainment, and the possibilities are endless in that regard.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for films and video game films, but it's an interesting time for you as well because May 6th, there is a very special DVD compilation / digital download that will be available of the Brian Pillman memorial shows from, what was it, 98, 99, 2000? Do I got that right?
Mm-hmm.
2001?
98, 99, 2000, and 2001. So
yeah.
4 shows.
Yeah, pretty legendary shows in independent professional wrestling, obviously paying tribute to your father, the late Brian Pillman, but also, it featured a plethora of WWF, WCW, ECW stars, which was unheard of at that time. And I know that you were very young when those events took place, and I'm sure you have some memories of those events, but I wanted to sort of segue into talking about that because, you were present for the Brody Lee tribute show that just happened back in December, and it was emotional for everyone that knew Brody. I fortunately got the opportunity to be in several locker rooms with him over the years and work with him, and he was such an amazing guy. And I got to imagine you being around for those shows had to bring back some sort of crazy memories for you, seeing Brody Jr. present for that. And I mean, you had to sympathize with what he was going through, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a surreal moment. Like it just felt like this full circle moment that finally I was on the other side of the screen. I was on the other side of this lens, like looking at this kid and almost looking at myself 20 years ago. It's like, and the timing of that, it's like Brody passed away at 41 years old. My dad passed away at 35. They were roughly the same age. They were roughly at a high point in their careers, like going into a new company, right? Like it was just very eerie how history had sort of repeated itself, and I couldn't be anything but supporting of this family. And I didn't know Brody at all, but it's been an absolute joy to get to know Amanda and to get to know her sons, Brody Lee Jr. and Nolan. And the fact that they're at TV every other loop, and this kid is learning and he's moving at a pace that's, just unreal. Like I couldn't imagine understanding the level of like psychology and wrestling that this kid at 8 years old can fathom. It's because he truly is passionate about it. And I was only like 4 or 5 when my dad passed away, so I would have been sort of in Nolan's shoes. Nolan's like 3 or 4 now, and it's just like I wasn't old enough to really grasp all that camaraderie and all that information about wrestling. I was just still afraid, and I didn't know what was going on, but looking at Brody Lee Jr. and just how well he has absorbed it all in, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be an incredible performer one day, and he's going to be a part of this business. I mean, he already is. He's already signed to a contract with AEW, and he's learning, and we're teaching him, and we're trying not to overexpose him and stuff. We got to remember that he is a kid and he does need to finish school and he's got to do those things. But his mother has all the support in the world. You know what I mean? I told her if there's anything that they need, it's like I don't want to say that I've been there and been in those shoes before, but in many ways I have experienced a similar, upbringing and stuff, except where, my mom and, my dad wasn't there, and my mom kind of had a hard time dealing with it all. So, and that was a different time then too, but it was because of these memorial shows that really helped us out as kids. And the fact that, Vince allowed these things to go on to raise money for our family, it speaks volumes to that company as well. They did a tribute, and then they allowed all these memorial shows to go on. So, it's hard to say what the future holds for this family, but I can tell them that in today's world, the wrestlers were very supporting, and we're not gonna let this kid, forget, that we're all there for him,
Yeah, it's really awesome that the camaraderie of the locker room that can come together for this family, for Brody Lee's family. And I got to imagine when you look back at those memorial shows, I know you were young. Do you have any memories of the camaraderie and the support that you felt at those shows, interacting with those superstars? I mean, it had to be.
It's kind of crazy because, I remember sitting on Goldust's lap, as a kid, and now here he is coaching backstage. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of these guys, Braxton Sutter and BJ Whitmer and Matt Hardy, all these guys were there at the memorial show. So it's like you start to see that, wrestling. While we do have go home to our families and our normal lives, and we are sort of there to make money and be professional. At the same time, it is a family, you know what I mean? And these guys would take a bullet for anybody, and it's wild to see that they've experienced all that entire timeline of me being 4 years old, growing up, and all of a sudden I'm in the locker room asking for advice. So it's 20 years from now, Brody Lee Jr., he'll be 28 years old, me, I'll be turning 28 in September. He'll be 28, coming in ready to, get his shit together and debut for AEW, on a higher note, who knows? He'll probably debut long before that, as a full-time wrestler. But it's just that whole life cycle, and then to see him in the locker room, and then he's, asking questions, and we're all just giving back. And that's the thing with wrestling, is nobody's afraid to give back and help out,
Yeah.
No one's, especially in that locker room, no one's out to get anybody. I've heard horror stories of WWE and different stuff like that, but who knows? I've never worked there, so it could be a bunch of really nice, good guys there too. And definitely something like that. As a crisis as it may be, it really brought the whole locker room together. I think every one of us that was present for those events is a lot closer. You might not like somebody, or you might be better friends with someone else, but at the end of the day, the AEW locker room is a pretty tight knit group, and I give a lot of credit to Tony Khan for that, because during the pandemic, he made sure we were all tested and healthy, and made sure that we had a social life. He provided a hangouts for us after the shows, and let us hang out on the specific floor of the hotel, so that nobody got sick and everybody was, kind of quarantined and stuff. But we were all able to drink and have a good time after the shows. So it's one of those things that an owner like that was willing to risk it, because he knew that we're only human beings. We needed that camaraderie. We needed that social life. We needed to blow off some steam, we're taping 3 days in a row, and then we go home for a whole week. And it's it's hard to get into a rhythm like that. You know what I mean? It's you get comfortable at home, you take a week off, and then it's oh no, I got to fly back to Jacksonville and then wrestle for 3 days straight, from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. The tapings are long, but everybody's got to stay. Everybody stays, from the top of the card to the bottom. Everybody's watching all the dark matches. Everyone's giving feedback. You know what I mean? It's you might come through the curtain and there's Chris Jericho. Yeah, this is what you could have done. It's oh, good job. It's Cody and Tony are watching, the lowest of the card of any match and giving feedback. Oh, that was great. Or oh, you could have done this. But it's you know what I mean? They don't have to do that. They don't have to put all those countless hours, but these people don't sleep. They have so much passion for pro wrestling, and everybody else feeds off of it. It's like when you have that much passion for the business and for the sport, that's how you're going to build a successful company. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you got to make the right decisions financially. You got to market things correctly, and you got to sell tickets. But at the end of the day, if your workers are happy, if people want to work for you, if people strive, if you ask any young wrestler these days, it's like, oh, where do you want to be? It's no more like WrestleMania. It's more like, I want to be in AEW, So I think that speaks volumes of the leadership there.
For sure. It seems like the cool place to be and the product is amazing. But one thing that I find interesting is how you talk. You're very humble when you talk about guys like Chris Jericho and Christian and guys of that nature giving you advice. And I don't know. I think maybe from outside looking in, people can have this misconception that because you're a second generation superstar and that you were kind of born into wrestling, that perhaps maybe you want stuff handed to you. But from my experiences with you and just like watching your story unfold over the past few years, I know that behind the scenes, you're one of the most hardest working guys around. So like, where does that sense of humbleness come from with you?
Well, I think it also comes from the fact that I never really grew up in the scene. When I was 4, 5, and 6, and 7, like, sure, we had those memorial shows and I had those connections with those guys. But shortly after those, I was, my mom like quit bringing me around. Like, there wasn't any more shows. Like, I was told that wrestling was bad and it killed my father. And so I was raised, way outside the business. I was raised sort of to despise the business, right? I was taught, very sour, there was a very sour taste in my mouth about the business, and that there was drugs involved. And my middle school and high school teachers, they would kind of pull me away and push me away and try to get me into sports and get me to focus on my grades. They didn't want me to go down the same, path of destruction, so to speak. So like, I really didn't grow up in it. I didn't grow up knowing these guys. And while I was a little bit of a fan, like here and there with the video games and some of the PlayStation games, like I kind of knew who everybody was. I didn't watch regularly because, like I said, it gave a sour taste in my mouth, and it always made me think like, oh, that could be me. If only my dad was still here, like that could be me out there. But it'll never be me because I thought that the only way to break in was to be a professional athlete. Like, I respected the business so much, I never went anywhere near it because I just assumed that, like, if you weren't in the NFL or if you weren't a professional MMA fighter, then no one was going to look at you. You know what I mean? I just assumed that, like, you had to be this elite athlete. Like, I played football at a high level in high school, and I went on to play college lacrosse. But my main goal was just to go to college and get a degree. I just wanted to succeed at being normal.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was like, well, you know what? Like, this is if I could succeed at being normal, then why not try to succeed at being great? Why not try to succeed at something that? And of course, I knew I had an end. I knew I had a name and I knew I had a path. But I knew, and especially Lance Storm reinforces 100% of me, I knew that I had to work 10 times harder than everybody else. Because if I went in and half-assed it, it would be like pissing on my father's grave. You know what I mean? If I went in and didn't live up to these high expectations, then people were just going to look down on me with disdain and resentment for like trying to abuse that namesake. So I was like, I have to work twice as hard. I have to make sure I'm jacked all the time. I have to make sure I'm in shape and not getting blown up in the ring. I got to come to work with an extra tan skin because it's like I watched this film with my dad. Like, that's the only memories I have of him. I don't remember how he was behind the scenes, but when I watch him on TV, always had a good tan, always was in great shape, was always working generally in his matches, calling his own, working guys that were less experienced and bringing them up, being a leader out there. He was a leader and I didn't want to like disrespect the business by coming in and just being like, oh, I can just half-ass it and make it. I almost had to work harder.
Yeah.
And Cody always told me that too. I met Cody first time in Calgary, like before I even finished training. It was like a couple weeks into training. He was doing his big indie tour, and he had to show up at PWA, Prairie Wrestling Alliance in Calgary, Alberta. And he sat on the floor with me and gave me a whole, a good layout. And he was like, look, like, be you, if your name's Brian, if that's really your name, then don't be afraid to be Brian Pillman Jr., follow your gut. But he said, it's going to be so much harder. He's like, if you take that path, like, he's like, yeah, you could change your name and go in and fuck around for a little bit. But he's like, if you choose the second generation path and if you choose to be Brian Pillman Jr., it's going to be that much harder on you. And I mean, 2 months in, 3 months in, I was already on MLW TV and just, fake it till you make it, right? But I had enough that like natural charisma just from being like a high school jokester and being a football player and knowing that like I enjoyed the attention. Like I wasn't afraid. Like I didn't have stage fright. I took public speaking in college so I could cut a half-ass promo, So it's like I had enough like natural charisma to go in out there and then, like I said, just kind of fake it and be a part of a faction. And Teddy Hart and Dudley Boyz Jr. kind of carried me with all the wrestling and all the in-ring stuff. And I was more or less just a TV character, more or less a manager. And I had gotten hurt too, right when I signed. So I literally went in as a manager.
Well, is that around the same time that I wrestled you when you were on crutches?
Yeah. Like I got done with when I got finished with I was injured and then we did that angle to set it up.
Yeah.
And when I got back from injury, I like got in real good shape and then we had a match. And honestly, my match with you was one of the first matches where I was like, holy shit, I had a wrestling match. Like I had a full, like long, like it wasn't just some short little shine and do the finish, It was like an actual like back and forth. And like I was heel too that match.
Yeah.
Too. So I got to be something that was more, I don't know. I think being a piece of shit and having that upbringing of like, constantly being in trouble and like, mad at the world. Like I feel like being that heel that night was so much more natural for me. And I was able to take out my anger, on this disabled, guy. Like,
well, dude, I totally relate to that because despite like being the stereotypical babyface character with a disability, like I had a similar upbringing to yours with a drug addicted mother, and I was bullied and made fun of, and people talked down to me because I was disabled. And so when the opportunity came a couple years in my wrestling career to present myself as a heel, people didn't think I could do it, but I was the only one that thought I could do it because I knew how to channel that anger and frustration and how to flip the story because there was a lot of pent up frustration. And so like growing up in a similar situation, like one interview I listened to of yours, you were talking about how, and I totally related to this, how you'd go to hang out with friends and because they had decent dinner every night, you thought they were rich. And I remember like on rare occasions where I would hang out with a friend and their family would take me to the Olive Garden. I thought it was like, these guys must be rich because Olive Garden has to be very expensive. And, you look at it now, Olive Garden is like cheap ass spaghetti. I mean, delicious. I'll eat it every day. But I had that same experience with like, my mom was never around. She was always doing drugs. I saw her doing drugs. I lived in the lower west side of Cleveland. And so like, talk to me about your experiences, like, because obviously, your dad is this dude that was on television. He was a worldwide celebrity. And you kind of go from knowing that and then the situation you're in, like, do you realize that your situation isn't normal? Because I know when I was in my situation, I just thought that's how life was.
Yeah, I think, it was weird because like I went to a really nice, I went to public school, but it was a pretty nice public school. It was a real nice area, in the tri-state, Northern Kentucky tri-state area. And so my name and my family legacy is what kind of got me in with the cool kids and got me in with the football team and stuff. So while I was, not eating well and wearing the same pair of jeans at school every day, my friends were kind of popular and in the cool group and stuff. But they kind of thought it was super cool that I was like this sort of renegade and that my dad was this legendary wrestler and stuff. So I had this unique sort of childhood where like my mom, she'd be pilled out 20 hours of the day, you know what I mean? So, but she would get us booze and alcohol and then she would go to sleep. And then I would just have the house to myself, from the ages of 13 to 17, I just lived on my own basically. Like I just had this house and my friends came over and we partied and then the girls came over. So it's like, I learned, I got a lot of that out of my system at a very young age, like a lot of the partying and a lot of the just, experiencing what most kids are sheltered and they're given rules and they have a curfew and all this. It's like, I was able to go out at 2 a.m. and ding dong ditch people, with my friends. Like, it was just like, I was just such a degenerate because I didn't have rules. I didn't have limitations. So, but it almost helped me grow because as I got older, And once I got to be like a junior and a senior in high school, I realized that if I wanted to start on the football team and if I wanted to keep these friends that I made that were much higher class, and if I wanted their parents to not like hate me, you know what I mean? Like their parents would be like, oh, he's hanging out with Pillman again, they're going to go to jail and shit, and like we'd get picked up by the cops and they would just like take us to the station and like hold us for a couple hours just to scare, what I mean? We weren't like really breaking any rules, but it was just like, oh, you're out past curfew, they never caught us for any of the mischief that we did. But it was almost like, oh, there he goes running around with Pillman again,
Yeah.
But then, so I was like, you know what, if I really want to stay, and get my shit together, like think about it, like by the age of 17, 18, I was worried about getting my shit together. I got all that out of my system. I realized that no one was going to hold my hand. No one was going to force me to succeed. Right. So like, you know what, I'll get it together. I'll start varsity. And then, by my senior year, I started varsity. I had like a 3.7. And was on the All-Star team, the defensive MVP of the All-Star team, and just had made a lot of really good, long-lasting friends that I still talk to this day. So, what started as a really shitty childhood kind of beat me up and molded me into the person I am today, because I was able to make those mistakes and learn the hard way, right?
Yeah, no, I totally relate to that. Now, when the situation with your mom, when do you realize that that's not a normal thing? Because for me, it was like, I think I came to terms with it at like 14 or 15. And I know like you moved out as a teenager from your mother's house. Is that correct?
Yeah. So like at 13, I was like, this is not, this isn't working out. Like, obviously there's no food in the fridge. You know what I mean? My stepdad's in and out of jail. Like there's no one's ever home, strangers are staying at the house. Like she had like some 2 random people living in my bedroom. Cause I always hung out downstairs on the couch. So I'd end up sleeping on the couch and stuff. But that was not me like giving up my whole bedroom. Like I wasn't saying, hey, rent out my bedroom to some druggies. Like, so it's like I came home one day and people were living in my room. And it was just like, and so at 13, I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. But like, so I moved across there's like a little creek you could walk across. I walked across the creek to the apartments and moved in with my friend Paul Sprandio. And he was, his mother, he was the son of a single mother. She was Mexican. And they were just this happy, like Mexican family, like very tightly bond. They didn't have a lot of money, but they were very grateful for what they had, and they were willing to help take care of this kid. So I just took a garbage bag and moved over there. But then anytime we needed to we didn't throw any parties at the apartment complex because we respected this woman that was feeding us and shit, So we would, if we ever wanted to go be bad and cause mayhem, we would go over to Melanie, my mom's house, and we would throw parties and everything, and that's where we, acted up and stuff. So it was like, but I knew that like it just wasn't like the life that I needed to live, but I took advantage of it while I was young, and then again, by the time I was about 18 years old, my aunt and uncle started getting more involved in my life, and then my aunt bought a house closer to the high school, and I started cleaning up my act and living with her. So.
Yeah, that's awesome that you had that support system, because I feel like if it wasn't for some of the friends that I associated myself with, I don't know, I feel like I would have went down a dark path. So I'm glad that you had, someone across the street that you could run to. And eventually, you end up going to college, and which you did yourself. Like none of these memorial shows went to pay for your college. Like you took out a loan, you go to school, you get a good job. But at some point, you get a call from a guy by the name of, the name is somewhere in the back of my brain. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. Arguably the biggest star of all time. He gives you a call because he's got one of your dad's old weightlifting belts. Talk to me about getting a call from Stone Cold randomly and how that kind of pushed you into taking a journey into professional wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say it was definitely a sign, it was a sign from God or a sign from my dad, you know what I mean? It's like, out of all things, I guess Steve just decided to go through his old boxes and decide that he needed to, he could have looked at it and been like, oh, and, I'll put that up or I'll move that somewhere else. But he just decided to go out of his way and reach out to me on Twitter. This was before I was even interested in the business or even looking at anything involving the business. I just kind of had a Twitter account and maybe I followed a few wrestling pages or something, but no one knew who I was. No one had any inkling that I was going to get into wrestling. And, he DMs me and I'm like, okay, is this really him? Like, there's no way. And I go and, it's got the blue check mark and all that. I'm like, holy shit. Like, he wants me to, like, he didn't tell me right away what it was. He was just like, give me a call. And I'm like, oh no, is this the call? Like, I'm being brought in, I'm being summoned by the god of wrestling.
Yeah.
But then he explained to me, like, oh, I got this weightlifting belt. And then, yada, yada. And then I was on my way to class. It was like my final semester of college. And I had like 15 minutes to class. So I was running early, but I was like, you know what? I'll pick up this call because I think I called. We were playing like phone tag or whatever. And he finally called me back. I was like, well, I'm going to pick up the phone. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
You don't exactly. Hey, I got fucking programming. Like, come on. I pick up the phone and we ended up talking for like 45 minutes. And I'm just right outside my classroom. I ended up skipping class that day. I think it worked out.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a good life decision.
But basically, we talked about the belt and stuff. But he was like, "Oh, I'm here to chat. I'm going to talk about more things." And he, told me some stories about my dad and some things. And I was like, Steve, I was like, what do you think? Do you think that there's any chance of me being able to get into this business? Like, what is it? What are the odds of somebody breaking in right now? And he was like, don't do it, because you think your father would want you to, but do it because it would make you happy. And he told me to look into wrestling, but only to do it if I really liked it and really enjoyed it. And he was like, you ought to just go train somewhere low key. He's like, go to some school, just train, don't make a big fuss of it all, but go somewhere and train and just learn the basics and just see if you love it. Because he's like, you really got to love it. He's like, don't get into this shit just because your dad did it, but you have to love it. And then he recommended Les Thatcher, but Les Thatcher had already, he didn't have a school anymore. And if he did, he maybe had like one or two students, but I don't think he was in control of any ring at the moment. And we had Roger Ruffin in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, but we also had Rip Rogers down at OVW in Louisville. So I did my research and I applied for the Storm Wrestling Academy in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I thought, well, this is very fitting because my father trained up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So just to kind of stay in line, not only was it the best, most efficient school at the time, like bar none, like I've been to all the schools, sorry, whoever's running whatever factory here and there. Storm Wrestling Academy was the best school of all time. Now I would say QT school is the best.
Yeah, well,
QT has the best school right now.
I hear great things about his school.
But before I knew about his school, before he had it as prominent as it is now, when I broke in, Storm Wrestling Academy was the place to be.
Yeah.
But before I could go there, because it was like you sign up for the block, my block wasn't to start until September 11th, 2017, 2 days after my birthday. So I think I applied there in February or March of 2017. And I was like, well, I got about 6 months to get in shape, get flexible, and learn what I can, and not overthink it, but just learn what I can, learn the basics of the basics. And I'll go to this place that has a pretty good track record of creating stars called OVW. And I went down to Rip Rogers and he's like, oh, you little sick son of a bitch. You're like, come on in here. Go in there and take your first bump now. Go in there and do a bump. I'm like, well, how do I do it? He's like, go in there and just follow your back. And the students are like teaching me how to bump and shit. I take my first bump and it knocks the wind out of me. I'm like, fuck this. This sucks.
Right.
But I was jacked up. I was in really good shape. I really took the fitness part seriously. And it almost surprised me when I went up to, no offense to all the students in my class that year, but I went up to Lance's school and I was like, damn, like, does anybody work out anymore? But you had a lot of kids from different countries and different walks of life. Some of them were more or less fans, or some of them were trying to be referees, so there wasn't as many. I thought I was going to go up there and it was going to be like 10 Dolph Zigglers and then me and like just all these like superstar jack guys that like went to Canada to train. But yes, the business had changed. But my expectations were always high for it. I treated it like it was a professional sport. And even to this day, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I try to stay in the best shape I can,
Yeah.
I think over time on the indies, I got a little lazier because I was like, oh, well, like if nobody's in shape, then I can just be barely in shape and be in better shape than, And it's like you were always really, really lean, in really good shape,
Yeah.
You were always, it looked like, somebody, like a wrestler.
Yeah, well, I try, and like again, I relate to what you're saying because like sometimes, especially again being disabled, I have this chip on my shoulder. I want to prove people wrong, so I'm
Sure,
like,
yeah.
I
So
have to
you're gonna
be.
work twice as hard. Yeah.
Yes, I gotta look good, right? And like they're like I'm not gonna walk up to guys in the locker room and go like, why do I look so good and you look like shit? But like
Yeah, I
there is
can't
that thought.
fucking move my. Yeah, yeah.
Right, like there's that mentality in my brain. Like I take pride in trying to look the part
Yeah.
of a wrestler because I'm not the tallest guy in the world. So I gotta be in shape, right? So, talk to me about since you brought it up, like on indie shows today, when you see a guy that isn't in the best physical condition, like not everybody has to look the same. I'm not saying that, but like
No, no, no.
where is your stance as far as trying to look the part of a professional wrestler?
I think, especially when you watch MMA and UFC these days, I don't think you necessarily got to be like a gassed up, like juice head, like a big monster. Like, but I do think that people that watch MMA or they watch these other sports, it's like just look like an athlete. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you look at Jorge Masvidal. He's not a big gassed up machine, but he's lean. He's limber. He can fight.
Yep.
It looked like somebody that trains every day. And it's like, and then also train every day. Like it doesn't have to be bodybuilding and shit every day, but maybe you go do some yoga. Like maybe you go do martial arts that day. Like I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and striking, which has helped my footwork and my mat work immensely. But also it's tightened up my core and it's tightened up the way I look because people that fight for a living look like they fight for a living.
Right.
So if you're just going in the ring and working on moonsaults and doing dumb shit, but then you're not eating right and you're not working out real functional workouts, then you're going to look like, a slob, So I don't know. I think the business has gotten a little bit better. I think when I first broke in, it was just wrestling there were so many indie shows. It was so popular. But now that there's less shows, there's a lot less spots. And I think those spots are being occupied by the people that are really taking it serious, So
yeah,
the pandemic has done, it definitely has done a disservice to the industry as far as the indies go, but it's also done a job of kind of weeding out a lot of those just token promotions or like this guy just has a fucking promotion because he wants one and he just books himself on time. You know what I mean?
100%.
Because now they have to jump through the hurdles to get a show going.
Yeah.
Where the real good shows, the ones that are actually doing all the steps and booking all the right people are going to go through all that,
Yeah.
But Joe Blow, who just books an indie on the weekend and fucking books himself in the main event and has a fucking beer gut.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, I'm not going through all that bullshit and all those precautions to like start a show. You know what I mean? So it kind of weeds out the people that are not as passionate, I guess, about it.
Right. As you were growing as a performer, because I know you've only been at it for a few years, what do you think after Lance Storm School, what do you think was the hardest part of psychology for you to pick up as you were growing as a performer?
I think it was actually, dude, it's crazy because I thought the hardest thing was thinking that I had to do all this dumb shit. Like thinking I had to do, like I was so daunted by all the acrobatics and all the different moves and how this guy's going to pump handle this and he's going to underhook that. And it's like, I thought, man, I would always go to Sandy Callahan. I'd be like, what moves do I do? I need cool moves or I'm never going to get booked. And he's like, no, you don't. Like just do your basics and fundamental, like do a back suplex better than the other guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it because and I hate to be the old timer, but it's almost like the blind leading the blind where like these kids think the only way to get booked is to like do all this dumb shit or like, oh, well, my move is slightly different than your move and it has a different name and I say it when I do it. And it's like, like double underhook, suplex driver, knee lift. And it's like, dude, like just do a fucking suplex that looks really good.
Right.
Might get booked by a respectable company. And it sucks because I was just so daunted by this and I would go out and try new things and maybe I'd get hurt or the other guy would get hurt or I would be like, oh, that looked dumb. Or it's like, and it's like half the time you don't even know how to sell this shit. And also too, you're just being worried that people were like on my ass or people were like jealous of me because of who I was and my last name and all that. So I was always like extra pressure, like, oh, I better do some cool shit or they're gonna, you know what I mean? Like I always wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
And then but it was the old guys like Ricky Morton and then Terry Taylor. When I ran into Terry Taylor, it was all these older guys that were like, no, like don't follow this trend of all this shit. Like you don't, and I hate that they were like, you don't need to do it, but they were like, you don't need to do it, not just because your name, but you don't need to do it because you look good. You
right.
have ring charisma.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is go out there and tell a story. And even Sammy was the same way. He was like, I can't tell you what moves to do. It's more about how you do them. You know, it's more about the character and who you are and the story you're trying to tell, you know, and all these people that overthink all this shit, you know, and it's just that precedent of, oh, well, he did a 630, you know, or he did that. And it's like, but where's the longevity in that? You know, like, did Triple H ever do a fucking 450? You know what I mean? Like,
no.
I mean, I watched Shawn Michaels today, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, Shawn Michaels didn't do nothing. I mean, he was just a great wrestler, just a great storyteller, great heel, great babyface, great seller. You know, he had some good sells and some good bumps that he took out of the ring, but that's the thing. A good babyface is going to bump well. You know, it's not about which fucking arm you hooked or like what combo you did into your stupid second. You know, like
he did the right things at the right time. You know what I mean? Like I can't do a kip up, and I wish I could, because I tell young kids all the time, like at seminars, I'm like, dude, like when Shawn Michaels dead cells and just lays there for what seems like an eternity, and the crowd is waiting for it, and then he kips up out of nowhere and fires up. It's the coolest thing, and it doesn't take that much effort. You know what I mean?
Spiking anybody on their head. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a moment. And when you realize that wrestling's about the moments and the facials and how well you work the camera and how well you fire up, and like when you look at someone's eyes and you just fucking believe it. Yeah. And like you said, and I think Cody was ribbing me one day. He was like, I could tell you just, you know, you could see that childhood. You could see that you could see that chip on your shoulder in a real performer who's like really fired up. Like when they're coming out and they just are mad at the world. Like, you know what I mean? So that's like, it's almost like that's what makes a good wrestler, is like people that have had it rough, or people that really want it. You got to be really hungry. You know, if you've had everything handed to you, if you've had an easy life growing up and you're just getting into wrestling just to get, you know, just because you like it or you're a fan or just because you want to be famous, then you're not quite in it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be a star. Don't get me wrong. I want to make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But it's because I've been hungry before.
Sure.
I want to be hungry again.
Oh yeah. Look, I'm always hungry, man, both mentally and physically. But so one thing I wanted to talk about, you know, I really enjoyed our match that we had together a few years ago, and it was I think it was like in your first 30 matches. And I think it was humbling for me to be able to help you in some way with that match. At least I hope I helped you. And one thing that stuck out to me about that match that I don't remember anyone doing before or since was, as we called the match, you wrote it all in a notebook. And I wanted to talk to you about how that got started and how that helped you. Like, was it to sort of read it back and sort of get a grasp of the psychology? Was it just a memorization thing at that time? Like, what was the story with the notebook?
Yeah, I think, you know, being daunted by all the innovative moves and the people on the internet and the video and like, oh, we're going to do all this crazy shit. I think I just wanted to make sure I knew all the spots down. But I didn't just write down the moves. I would write down the moments, and I would write down the reasoning why. And I would write out the story as it played. Like, I would say, you know, Greg gets angry here and goes for this, you know, but like I've seen that earlier in the match, so I'm outsmarting it now. So I was sort of like dissecting the psychology in there for me, because if you do anything in the wrestling ring without a reason for it, then you're wrong. Like, you need to have a reason for everything. And I mean, shoot, I've just wrestling being at AEW, wrestling under Jerry Lynn, like, I'll freaking give somebody a tackle. And he'd go, well, why'd you give him a tackle? You know, like, oh, well, shit. Like, I just thought I had to because it's a wrestling match. But you don't have to do anything. If you're already winning the match, you already have a hold on, then there's no reason to do anything. There has to be some sort of back and forth. The other guy needs to push you into a position to where you have to act, right? So the best matches make sense. And that's like a super, you know, nitpicky way of looking at it. But yeah, like sometimes you take shortcuts, and sometimes you just get right to the spot, or you get right into the thing. But you know, why are you jumping off the top rope in the beginning of the match? It's like, what pushed you to take that risk that you needed to risk your whole career? You could land and tear an ACL, you know, trying to do a double axe handle off the top rope. Or, you know, you're late in the match and all the moves in the world didn't work. Well, fuck, what else I got to do? I'll take the risk and I'll go to this, you know what I mean? So it's like, and that's what psychology is. Nobody knows, like, and that's the thing too. Like, I didn't know what that fucking word meant. Like, and when you first break into business, everybody's throwing the word psychology out here. You're like, what? Like, the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Well, most people that throw around the term psychology, though, like on the indies, like they don't know what they're talking about. Like, especially like I'm sure you've come across them in your time. The old, we'll just go out there and walk and talk. Do you know how many guys don't understand that you still need to have a semblance of why you're doing these moves when you're walking, talking? These guys don't get it, man. It's unbelievable.
And that's like a very cerebral part of the art that's lost. I think it's one thing. It's like calling it in the back and like placing your psychology and planning it out is one thing. Calling it on the fly and like just doing whatever is one thing. But when you can call it on the fly and have the psychology that you're thinking of as you're doing it and reacting on it, that's like a high level form of the art. You know, that's like some Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko type shit where it's like, that's when you've worked with somebody a bunch and you know how to counter their stuff. And you're almost having a real wrestling match at that point when somebody goes for something and they don't even expect you to counter it, but you counter it because you know that you should, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. And then at that point, you're not even talking in the ring. I've seen matches where guys, they just have a match.
Yeah.
And they're not even talking.
Sure.
And then later in the match, they might have some spots that they called in the back. But the first, you know what I mean? If I see you about to leapfrog, I'm going to duck underneath it. Like, I don't need you to say, drop down leapfrog. You send me off the ropes and jump in the air, well, I'm going to duck it. Or if you drop down, I'm going to jump over you.
Yeah.
But that's at some high level stuff. And, you know, obviously I wasn't trying to put the cart before the horse when I started. So I wrote everything down and I tried to memorize people's moves and shit. But man, I tell you what, being at AEW and being in the ring with guys like FTR, I mean, we just go out there, you know, they tell me to finish and, and they beat my ass for a few minutes and then, you know, hey, crawl through my legs, you piece of shit, you know?
Yeah.
I'll crawl through my legs and I'll make the tag to Griff. And that was the only thing I heard the whole match.
Well, like you've been doing a lot of great tag team matches with Griff as the Varsity Blondes, and you've got to work. I was going to say FTR, I think Chris Jericho and MJF. Talk to me about the formation of the Varsity Blondes and what working as a tag team wrestler.
Before I get on that, I'll just say that like in wrestling 3 or 4 matches with FTR, I got better due to that old school mantra of like leading, you know, like old guys leading guys through match. I got better in 3 matches with them and 1 match with Chris Jericho than I did in 3.5 years on the Indies. You know what I mean?
What do you think it was about those matches that made you that much better?
Just guys that are relaxed, guys that go out there and talk to you in the ring. They might just tell you to sell for whatever reason, and you're like, "Oh, I'll just sell," you know, like, or also, go down there. Or even Sean Spears, it's like, "Oh, sell down to the other buckle," you know, like. But it looks like he's just talking shit, you know what I mean? It's like they do it in such a subtle, relaxed form that you're never lost in a match. And then you have to have those leaders, you have to have those generals. And there weren't too many of those on the Indies. But I did think that I felt very comfortable in the ring with you. And I thought you led me quite well, you know, because you weren't, you were relaxed. We didn't overly call every spot. Like we had a lot of spots and stuff because I was young. And I think when I was young, I needed that shit. Like, I was like,
but also we're going to listen. You know what I mean? Like we have stuff planned, but we're going to listen and change.
And that's the challenge right now at AEW is that we don't always have a real genuine crowd. So sometimes things go faster than they would with a real crowd because our artificial crowd is just going to cheer regardless because they think that they, and they usually do know when we want them to, but sometimes they're a little early and then, okay, well, let's just go to the next thing because our artificial crowd is telling us to, you know what I mean? So it's like, it is a little odd, but I think we'll get back to a more organic state soon and hopefully, getting into the Varsity Blondes here, hopefully the Varsity Blondes will be touring the country here soon. We got a huge match coming up. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but we are going to be featured on the May 5th Blood and Guts card.
That's awesome.
So that'll be really cool.
That's really cool.
But man, I mean, just talk about another kid that has the same philosophy. There's a very organic pairing. Talk about a kid that doesn't want to do too much and be too fancy. He's also 6'3", so he's protecting his size. We complement each other quite well. I'm a little more of the talker and a little more of the cruiserweight flyer. I kind of fly and I'm a little more technical. I like try to put on holds and stuff. And he's, the comeback, the big boot, the big splash in the corner. He's like the big man of the group.
Yeah.
But man, he does a hell of a dive too. Like he's just a great athlete, He's like my little Sting,
Yeah. Well, and chemistry is important too. I'm glad that do you remember the first time you met Griff? What that was like?
Yeah. I mean, I met him at AEW. I think that for like the first loop I was there, but I didn't really talk to him as much. Like I had a singles match with Sean. my first loop there, I was very to myself. I didn't want to like ruffle any feathers, so I just talked to people I knew. But I did know a lot of people there, anyways, just because a lot of people from the Indies are there,
right?
That I came up with. But I had my match with Sean Spears, had my match with Brian Cage, and the office was just so happy with it, the way I was able to sell and put those guys over. And Sean, like I told you, a guy like him was just calling me my first match there in the ring, basically.
Yeah.
It was just, he was like, oh, this kid gets it. He can fucking listen. He's not a piece of shit.
Sure. It's very important not to be a piece of shit.
I was like, great. I was like, all right, am I hired? But, I didn't quite get the job yet. It kind of came a little bit later down the road. There was like maybe 1 or 2 loops that I wasn't invited on just for, whatever booking purposes. They were flying me down,
Yeah.
You can't always spend all that money. But once they knew that they wanted me in that tag team, I saw Griff at the airport in Charlotte. And I was like, you know what? I fucking attacked him on the chest. I was like, you know what? I bet they're putting us together as a tag team. Like, I just have a weird feeling. And I was right, dude. It was the craziest thing. Like, nobody believes me, but I totally called this shit.
Yeah.
100%. I was like, you know what? I bet we're going to be a tag team. I get there. I'm like, well, motherfucker. And Tony's like, you guys are like the Blondes. We'll just run with that, like, prototype name. Like, just be called, you guys are the Blondes. All right, cool. We're Blondes,
Love it.
And and again, even I would get a little bit like antsy, like, oh, we need more moves, we need to do all this crazy shit. And even Griff would ground me and be like, no, dude, like, it's cool, like, I'll just do my basic comeback and we'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
And maybe people do catch on that we do have a similar match structure every time, but we always mix it up. We always try to do things different. But what's consistent is that our stuff's always going to look good. It's always going to be stuff that we're comfortable doing. We're always going to have that fire. We're never going to hurt anybody. No one's going to get hurt in a Blondes match.
Yeah.
So we have tried a few different finishes and a few different setups and moves and stuff. And I think CD, Christopher Daniels, and Frank Kazarian have been huge mentors for us. And you talk about a tag team that has 100 different ways of getting in and out of stuff, 100 different finishes, 100 different things. But even in their age, they've, gotten to nail it down to a science of what they do best, what they like to do. And they're like, don't sweat it. Like, it'll just come with time.
Right.
So Griff is very patient when I used to be very antsy. So we balance each other out in that regard.
That's what you need in a partnership like that. Now, being in AEW so consistently, that helped sort of pave the way for this Brian Pillman Memorial DVD that's coming out, because you actually got a lot of extra interviews that are going to be featured in the documentary on the DVD with guys like Christian and Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho and Pepper Parks. And so, like, during these interviews, what did you learn about your dad from these guys? What did you learn about the shows? What stands out to you in these interviews that people can look forward to?
They were all like, the cool thing was that, like, how impacted, everybody felt. Like, everybody really was like truly, and I felt that on the indies with people I met too, and different guys like Animal and Tracy Smothers and all these guys that I got to meet coming up before they passed. And it was like, they were all just so heavily like affected by him and so influenced by what he had done in the business. And you see that in those interviews with Matt, and Matt's, almost was influenced by my dad for like the broken character and stuff like that. And like Christian was just like super into like his cruiserweight work and like his technical work and stuff in his Flying Brian days. And the fact that he was from Calgary, Christian's, Canadian too. So like, I was surprised at just how much, and in Jericho too, Jericho did a great bit on there. And I'm going to try, I'm going to text him today and see if he'll read this eulogy from Bruce Hart to go into the video too. But it was just really cool to like see these guys open up, for like 15 whole minutes about like what he meant to them and what those shows meant to them. And that's why it was a no-brainer for those guys to work those shows. They all worked them for free, like to raise money. And I mean, even Vince was just like cool with it, like ECW, WCW, WWF, all under one roof. It was unreal.
Yeah. I know there's a plethora of names from those promotions that have participated in the show. One of the matches that was released in a compilation DVD from WWE back in the day was William Regal versus Chris Benoit, which was like just an incredible match that people talk about to this day. But there's a bunch of those matches when you think about 98, 99, 2000, and 2001. I think people are going to really enjoy this set when it drops. You said May 6th, correct?
May 6th is the Dark Side of the Ring.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's going to drop the same day. I would hope that they would choose a different day so that it doesn't get lost in
Gotcha.
the mix. But I'll talk to Joe today. Well, you know Joe Dombrowski. I mean, I met him at those shows that you were on. So
Yep, yeah, I've known Joe for a long time. Actually, you brought up the dark side of the ring. What was that experience like filming some of that stuff for that? Because that's going to be the season debut for Dark Side, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you?
It'll be a 2-hour special. It was very powerful, very emotional. I definitely lost control of myself a few times in those interviews, just talking about, what us kids went through and stuff. So, the Dark Side of the Ring, it's 2 hours because, not only does it talk to the events leading up to my father's death, but it also talks about, the aftermath and what happened, once the big hurrah moments of all the memorial shows, like once all that fades and there's no more, support money coming in and charities and fundraisers, then the real test is shown of how the family kind of failed to stay together and like I said earlier, the ultimate decline of my mother and stuff. So and my stepdad stuff. But no, I mean, it's definitely best to be saved for that episode. I could sit here and go on about it all night, but I don't want to give any spoilers. It's just going to be next Thursday. I'm really excited to share my story with the world and for people to learn more about my father and obviously more about me.
I can't wait to watch it, and I can't wait to watch the memorial shows when they come out soon. I guess there's over 14 hours of footage, which it's for any wrestling fan that had appreciated the wars in the 90s between WWF and WCW and ECW to sort of see these guys in these dream matches that you would have never seen at that time. It's something to behold, and I know those shows meant a lot to you, Brian, and this conversation has meant a lot to me today. I'm glad we got the opportunity to catch up a little bit. And, I ask everybody this that appears on the show, for you in life and in pro wrestling, Brian, what inspires you? What keeps you going?
It's great that my legacy is what it is. That really inspires me. I wake up every morning with the name Brian Pillman, and I have to live up to that name every morning. So it's something I'm very grateful for. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has to live up to such a high bar of excellence. So I think that's what pushes me. I think that's what keeps me going. I want to have a family one day. I want to do what my father never got to fully complete, and that's to complete a family and to completely raise all his kids under one roof and live to see them grow older. So I think that's an ultimate goal for me too, right? We have very few things to do in this life. We're not required to do much. We're required to eat and drink and breathe air and pay bills and pay taxes. But, and some people want to have kids and some people don't, but I feel like it's definitely my duty to succeed enough in life that I can raise a family.
That's awesome, man. Hey, listen, I can't thank you
enough get some more pro athletes out there, what I'm saying?
Hell yeah, man. I can't thank you enough for doing this podcast with me today. You're an inspiration to me. I appreciate the things that you've overcome, and I'm glad you turned out to be the guy that you are. And I hope that I see you sooner rather than later. If people wanted to find you on social media, how could they do so?
Hey, you got me on Flying Brian 41 on Instagram and Twitter at Flying Brian Jr. So stay tuned, follow my journey, and be ready for Dark Side of the Ring on May 6th.
Heck yeah, man! It's going to be
blood and guts on May 5th. So I'll be on Dynamite May 5th. I'll be on AEW Dark on May 4th, and then Dark Side of the Ring May 6th. So big week next week.
Yes, a lot on your plate. Looking forward to it. And again, thank you for talking with me, and I will catch you down the road, my friend.
Thank you, Greg.
That was the interview with Brian Pillman Jr. Really enjoyed that conversation. Look forward to seeing that dude soon. Good kid, bright future.
I like watching him on AEW.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah, he's working hard.
Yes.
And unlike you, who's always hardly working.
God.
Well, let's see how hard you work at getting 3 things right for the first time in your life, you son of... Are you done?
It was so funny. Hold on.
What are you, the count?
One bad joke by Greg already this episode.
3 things you learned about Brian Pillman Jr.
All right. So, just to be honest to everybody and to be upfront and to be fair.
I believe in you.
Because I want people to be fair to air.
Yes.
I would like to point out that my record may not be so good.
No.
So, it's like I always get the first one for sure. And the second one may be a little shaky. And the third one, I screw the pooch. So, but I think I've got 3 things right now. I think. No. I know I have 3 things about Brian Pillman Jr. that I'm going to talk about. So, number 1, or as we like to say in my home country, numero uno. Brian Pillman Jr. is the son of Brian Pillman.
Okay, you had to have known that already.
So that was a good thing I learned in this episode.
We talked about Brian Pillman Sr. in the intro. So
that's my bad.
You didn't understand the correlation?
Yeah, because I thought you said Brian Pillman Sr., and I thought you meant like the one that wrestled in Promo Azteca.
Okay, no.
Common misconception.
All right.
Yes.
Well, sure. We'll give you that one.
Okay.
Try harder on the second one.
Okay. Brian Pillman Jr. is a junior.
Well, that's in his name.
His dad is Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
So he's a junior. I found that out in the episode.
You didn't know that his name was Brian Pillman Jr.
Well, a lot of people try to just make up names like like how you tried to be Greg Berg. It's just kind of like Goldberg.
Wow, why do you got to bring that up?
So your backyard days were fun.
All right, well, listen. These barely should count. But I'm going to give them to you because I have no faith in the idea that you can get 3 things right.
So you're saying you have faith in nothing?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think I got something, and I'm ready. I think I'm
Wait. Hang on. I know that you've been doing this for a while.
Yes.
Your record's not so stellar.
No.
Tag me in, brother.
What?
I got this.
I got
the 3rd thing for you.
I think I have some. What?
I'll let Ryan do it. It's fine.
What?
I got this.
Give him the tag.
I'll help you out.
Hot tag.
I'll get you this win.
Yep.
All right. Put your hand out, brother. All right.
All right.
There we go. Hot tag. The 3rd thing that Aaron and I have both learned from this interview is that Brian Pillman Jr., his real dad is Goldust.
Okay, that's not. No.
No?
He mentioned that he sat on Goldust's lap at a Brian Pillman Memorial show
But,
once.
I mean,
he never said that it was his dad.
I mean, you've sat on your father's knee.
Yeah, but I didn't sit on some random guy's knee and then it became my father. It's not how that works.
It's not?
Like when I sat on Santa's
That's how I got
lap,
my dad.
Santa didn't become my dad after I sat on his lap. So, Aaron, I don't know why you're laughing because this dude just fucked it up for you.
No, not again.
It's not correct. His dad is Brian Pillman, an actual moron.
It's weird because they look alike.
It hurts. It hurts being called the actual moron for once.
Oh God! Well,
Now I know how Aaron feels every week.
Something tells me I got set up. I got swerved. I got bamboozled. I got hornswoggled.
You're not hornswoggled. You're about the same height.
But,
Oh.
That's twice in one episode.
But hey, this has been a fun 100th episode. Thank you guys that have stuck around since the beginning. If you're a newer listener, we love you too. And we hope you keep coming back. Come back next week for 101 because little birdie told me, Aaron, that next week somebody's got a birthday.
Tweet.
Yeah, and guess what?
Ah.
We got a very special guest for the show.
Uh-oh.
You know who it is?
Who is it?
Take a guess.
Oh, gosh. Marty Bell.
No.
Okay, give me a sec. Marion Fontaine. Bobby Beverly.
Incorrect.
All better wrestlers than you.
Okay. Well, first of all, the guest is going to be you, because we're going to finally do the Aaron Bauer interview.
Oh, I'm not ready.
Yep, you're ready. You'll be doing
You got
this,
a week.
You'll be doing this on your birthday. But also, you're not the only guest for this show.
Okay.
Because we're still going to have a special guest.
Yes.
And it's a surprise.
No, tell me.
And I'm not telling you.
I don't like surprises.
You'll find out when we Zoom with this person next week.
Okay.
It's going to be great.
Oh, it's Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
It's not. No, that wasn't a hint. I
Oh.
wasn't giving you a hint. So come back next week to celebrate Aaron's birthday. He'll be 70 because he's been 69 for a while. Until then, follow us on social media at Iron on Wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure you give the podcast 5 stars. Creates visibility for the podcast. Leave a comment about the podcast and how much you enjoy it. Try out Patreon. Patreon.com/Iron on Wrestling. Join at the $5 and up level, because this weekend we're going to have a Zoom call, which we do once a month, where you get to interact with me and Aaron directly for at least 1 hour. It's good stuff. Join in. Sometimes Aaron, but mostly me.
Sometimes I have COVID.
Yeah.
That's created quite the predicament. Follow me on social media, at Gregory Iron on Twitter, at Gregory_Iron on Instagram. You can find me over on Facebook as well. You can DM me for professional wrestling bookings, seminars, and motivational speaking engagements. If you cannot contact me via DM on social media, you can email me direct at Gregory_Iron@yahoo.com. And, of course, go to my Pro Wrestling Tee store at ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron, where you can not only purchase my shirts, but a couple of Aaron's shirts, and just uploaded the special Fruitration shirt.
Ooh.
And if it's not up already, it should be. The Nation of Fruitration shirt is also up, because they were so popular with our Patreon subscribers that they wanted both shirts. So you could pick which one you like the best.
Which one was your idea?
Fruitration?
Yeah. What was mine?
Nation of Fruitration.
So which team are you? Because I saw it stirred up quite the debate online.
I mean, I like them both.
I'm Team Nation.
As long
Your team what?
Nation.
As long
So
as
am I.
It's all about the Fruitration. Okay? That's what matters. But also find me on Cameo. I can give you a shout out for anything you want. Ryan, what would you like to plug?
You can find me on Facebook, Ryan Egan, EGAN. Instagram, the.ideal.husband.
Mm-hmm.
I do a podcast once a week called Bring the Fight. It's on the Red Line Radio Network. You can find them on Facebook or YouTube. Red Line Radio LLC. And that's about it, really.
Aaron, what would you like to plug?
At Fair to Air, at Fair to Aaron. One of them's Twitter, the other is Instagram. I don't know the difference.
Fair to Aaron is Instagram.
Thank you.
Well, until then, we bid you farewell, and we will debate what's better next week, shampoo or conditioner. And until
shampoo is better.
Well, do you know that for sure, though? Till next time, kiss goodbye.